There's no better time to upgrade your phone at Walmart because when you sign up for AT&T Next, you can upgrade to a Samsung Galaxy S5 for $0 down. AT&T Next lets you upgrade every 12 months, so there's only one place for wireless. Walmart, more ways to Christmas joy.
Requires eligible installment agreement qualified credit and wireless service plan. Tax due at sale. If canceled, wireless service device balance due. New device after 1 year requires 12 installments, eligible trade-in and new purchase. Other charges and restrictions apply. See AT&T.com/next or a store for details.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com. I am your host, Janet Lesson, and my co-host today is Dr. Sasha Lesson. I have a little bit of laryngitis, so bear with me. And we have a wonderful episode planned called We-The-Anunnaki, another panel discussion, roundtable discussion, as I like to call it. And we're expecting to have as guests Emily Elizabeth Windsor-Craig, Helen Nell Parks, Jillian DeArmond Green, and Robert Evans Jr. And once again, I'm your host, Janet Lesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lesson. And Dr. Lesson, would you like to say something before I figure out which guests we have here with us? I've got all the numbers on the board. Are you there, sweetheart?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Janet, can you hear me? Okay, so
yes,
the questions that our panelists are going to be asking are, we're going to ask each of them to say, who are the Anunnaki? Why are they important to humanity? Which Anunnaki gods remained? And which ones left after Sodom and Gomorrah? Who rules this planet? And we're going to ask each panelist, what archetype, which one of these god archetypes from Sumer, do you identify with? We're going to ask each of them, are you part Anunnaki? And we're going to look at these questions in some detail. So that's, Janet will describe the structure. Well, she has they have 3-minute or 4-minute segments, and so that each person, no one gets to go on and on. You've got to be short and concise, and they answer these questions, or they make comments, and so forth. And then this timer goes off, and it's the next person to say, who's their favorite Anunnaki and how are they like that person and so forth. And then we go on with the questions about how have these archetypes from the Anunnaki story affected humanity. And, and we're going to especially look at Enki, the chief scientist, known as Adonai in the Bible, and Leel, Yahweh, Ninmah, Mary, the mother of humanity, Ningishita, Marduk, Anu, Inanna, Erishkigal, Ninurta, Nanar, who's probably Allah, Nergal, Alalu, and others. So we're going to look at those specifically. We're going to say, what character do you identify with as an emanation of yourself? How do you feel connected with which one of these? And we'll ask you listeners to do the same. We ask each person to name them and tell us the characteristics and qualities you embody as an emanation of that Anunnaki archetype. And then we're going to also ask each panelist who in our current matrix also carries that same Anunnaki energy. And we're going to ask the question, who rules the planet? And finally, we're going to see how do you see us shifting to a new paradigm that respects life and all consciousness away from this current paradigm of corporate, economic, and political slavery. So that's what we're going to be dealing with. Back to you, Janet.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go on the board here. I'm not sure who's at what number, and this is based on who called in first. So I'm going to click live. Area code, hold on 1 second, 650. Who do we have with us today?
That's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
How's it going? Hope you feel better.
Oh, I feel okay. I just can't talk. So Sasha's going to pick up the slack, but we're going to keep we're going to keep it going here. So let me just find out who everybody is, and then we'll start with the questions. And hold on one second. Area code 406. Hold on one second. Area code 406. Who do we have?
Oh, this is Jillian. Good evening.
Hi, Jillian. Great. I'm just
Hi,
getting
Janet.
Here. Okay, 1 second while I do the last one I have here. I think there's one that's trying to reach me, but I don't know. Area code 661. Who do we have? Hi, area code 661. Who is this, please?
Would that be international?
Well, who is this? Who do we have here?
Well, this one's Helen.
It's Helen. Hi, Helen. Great,
yeah.
You made it. Okay.
Come in. Back to
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna first round. We're gonna do a little bit of who are you. Sash, you want to talk most of this because my voice is just awful. And we'll start with Bob, who dialed in first. Go ahead, Sash. What do you want to say in the first round?
Okay, so now let's do a first round of who we are. So, Jillian, tell us who you are and what is your interest in the Anunnaki?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were starting with Bob. My name is Jillian. My whole history is a history of Anunnaki. I'm a clairvoyant. I came from Yorkshire in England, and I've lived in the United States for over 30 years now, writing and teaching and doing readings for people as a clairvoyant. That's about
it. Okay, that's excellent.
Okay. Robert.
Yes, Doctor. Well, my name's Robert Evans. Live here in Pacifica, California. Been researching the Anunnaki and the Viru and all the ancient texts and theories, whatever that line up with them. Anunnaki have had a great deal to do with almost every race on this planet, and they're actually coming back. They're actually coming in here every day.
Right on. Thank you. Helen.
No. Helen.
Yes.
Helen.
So who are you and what's your...
Number one, all right. Well, all I'm going to say is please don't shoot the messenger. If I have something different to say, it is not coming from me. It is coming from a source that most people think highly unlikely. I'll just say it straight out. Nostradamus was abducted. He was a time traveller, and through the hidden texts that Nostradamus was provided with, I have been given the task, against my will, I might add, of researching Anunnaki, getting all their names. There's about 123 names so far, and then finding out more and more about them, all against my will, I might add, and whatever I might have to offer might be a little bit different from what you might have to offer, but it's not me saying it. I'm only going on what I've had to learn, so I'll just leave off there at the moment.
Wow, thank you. Who else is with us, Janet? Do we have any other call-ins?
Emily hasn't shown up. Maybe she has the time confused, but we can just begin. And,
okay, tell us who you are, Janet.
Janet, I'm the co-host of this show, and I've been studying the Anunnaki, probably all my life. I didn't know who they were at first. I started with Velikovsky and von Daniken and in search of ancient astronauts, they called it back in the 60s. And so I've just been a ufologist and researcher, and I identify, and we'll get into that later, with one of the major characters of the Anunnaki. And I love my research, and I feel it's the reason why I was born is to come in here and break through this paradigm where people are not getting their basic needs met, and many people are in struggle and suffering while others are filthy rich at the expense of the masses. So that's kind of who I am. I live in Maui, Hawaii, and I have 11 cats right now. I have a little cat colony, and I have a wonderful husband. And we do Anunnaki research and broadcast on Aquarian Radio and Revolution Radio.
Okay, so you're going to be our time, right? Okay, so let's. Well, you're going to be our time.
I'm putting the timer on, but nobody's gone over their 4 minutes. But I will time it in case people get really long-winded, so we can keep the momentum going. Okay, back to you.
Okay, so I'm Sasha Alex. I'm an anthropologist. I got my PhD at UCLA. At this stage of my anthropology, I'm what's called an ethnologist. I look at all this stuff I've been reading all these years in all these different fields. Anthropology, the study of humanity, includes everything that affects humanity. So it's everything. And of late, I've read all the stuff from Zecharia Sitchin and so forth, and it's obvious that the Anunnaki are one of many, many extraterrestrial and intra-Earth races that have been interacting with this planet for many, many, many hundreds of thousands of years. And these are important people. They came to Earth 450,000 years ago for gold to take back to their planet, which is named Nibiru and goes around a binary subdwarf that's the binary to Solaris, our sun. It passes their planet or a debris that's in its orbital path passes between Jupiter and Mars periodically, and often can cause great disturbances like the Great Deluge and stuff like that on Earth. So there's these characters that came down from Nibiru, and they interacted, and they had many, many thousands of years later, after they created slave race, they made it better. That's us. They had this stuff written down, and all the stories, and each one of these guys, they're just big people, dictated his own version of it, which exalted him and put the others down, just like politicians still do to this day. So the question is, why, for each of the people, why are the Anunnaki important to humanity? Which ones do you think remained, and which ones left after Sodom and Gomorrah and Sinai were bombed? Who rules the planet? And I don't know if we'll have time on the first round, but which archetype do you identify with? Which one of the Anunnaki? Are you part Anunnaki? How does that feel? Does that resonate in you? And let's start with that. Okay, let's go around. The first one was Jillian.
Okay, Jillian.
Okay, so let's take the first part of the whole question, if that's okay. Why are the Anunnaki important to humanity? And my perspective on that is that, as well as being a clairvoyant, I also trained as a registered nurse and have had a lifelong interest in healing. And one of the things the Anunnaki did when the genetic engineering was done was that they removed 4 genes from the human genome, the hominid species they were developing at that time. They removed 4 genes and they replaced it with only 2 of their own. And those 2 missing genes from the human genome have resulted in all of what we call the autoimmune diseases. So all the things that people suffer from now, the arthritis, all the arthritic conditions and the neurological conditions like Parkinson's and MS, these horrible diseases that are inflicted on humanity and cause great suffering, which I do not like at all. These are all as a direct result. And so the importance is not only that they did that, but that their information on how to correct it is actually written somewhere in some museum on a clay tablet. Okay.
Wow.
You still have about 2 minutes to add your
I do.
answer. You can pass.
I'm sorry.
Well, we could go on to the next one about who stayed here after the nuking of Sodom, Gomorrah, and the Sinai in 2024 BCE.
Well, of course, when the bulk of the Anunnaki left, it was Marduk with several hundred of his Ajiji that remained, and they moved to where they'd had souls shut out before in South America, and built a city under Lake Titicaca. As you know, they're great submariners, and they built an underground city, which I presume is still there, the remains. And this, in fact, not the remains, because this is why we see all the UFOs coming in and out of Lake Titicaca in Peru. This is why it's so famous. But those ships, of course, are not spaceships. They're only ones that operate in the environs of the planet. And in 1991, in March 91, most of those people left and went back to Mars to reopen the refueling base on Mars in preparation for the return of the main Anunnaki fleet in a couple of years' time. So the ones that stayed were Marduk and his Ajiji, and most of them have gone now. And this is why you don't get many abductions since 91, because they're not here anymore.
Cool.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, indeed. So which of the Anunnaki do you identify with? Which one resonates in your chest?
You're still asking me? Okay. None of them. I don't. Okay. Let me tell you what they taught me to say when I was very young. They taught me to say, my name is Gillian, and I am a true daughter of the Anunnaki, sister of the Essenes, etc., etc. And I am who I am at this point in my history. I've had many incarnations, but I am the Anunnaki self that I was before I came to the planet, and that I will return to again. I hope not in the not too distant future. I hope, but I don't have. Because I was not anybody important. I think it's the major important Anunnaki, the great gods of the universe, the time lords and things. Those are the ones that have the aspects in many bodies on the planet at any one time. I simply don't. I'm me on and off the planet, and of no importance to anybody.
Okay, your time is up.
My time is up.
Yeah, we'll come back to you. We're doing 4 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. So, Sash, ask the next person.
Okay, well, it's Robert, and moving these questions along. Robert, from your perspective. Robert, you there? Who rules the planet, and what archetype do you identify with?
Well, I've always identified with Enki himself being like a scientist. That's why I think I'd like to believe something of his has actually been pushing me forward to research all this stuff so that other people know about it. Enki's has hands, I think, on a lot of things. The Zoroastrian religion, which actually had those huge carvings over there in Iran, which match exactly with the ships that are coming in here on a daily basis. That's about as far as I can say right there.
Cool.
Can I have one now?
What we want to do is not interrupt the other person until your turn. So make notes of what the other person's saying, and then when it's your turn, you can address what other people have said. We're going to, keep it going here.
My turn's been missed.
So Sasha, ask the question for Robert, and Robert, if you're done with your response,
in terms of the story of the great Anunnaki, how have the great Anunnaki and the way they acted, or the way they said they were acting, how have their behaviors and patterns affected humanity? What's your take on the main ones and how they've affected us?
Well, what I think is that they've actually gone around the world and they've actually raised various races to different degrees. Here in North America, they actually raised the Hopi Indians and some of the other tribes, and they've actually laid down a set of rules for them and have actually helped all of the Native Americans that are still in the United States. They've helped them through the first 4 worlds, and it's really interesting how their 4 worlds match exactly what the white man's ancient history provides, just as in the Colburn. The Colburn mentions the first world being destroyed by fire. The first world of the Hopi was destroyed by fire. And, so they've actually been helping all the different races around this planet to survive up until now, and they're probably working through what I think is the Holy Grail, the Holy Bloodline. And they're actually pushing us to a certain level.
Cool.
Level of technology, a level of understanding.
Okay, are you done with your response?
Yes.
Okay, whenever you're done.
Okay, Helen.
Hey, finished. Hold on 1 second while we set the timer. Okay. And go ahead and ask me again, Helen, and then I'll start the timer once you finish the response.
Helen, which archetypes do you identify with? And I guess I really want to know how those came down through history as they changed their names. I think you've got a handle on Thomas and Leonardo da Vinci and others. How did the archetypes down from the Sumerian time to the present?
First of all, it has to be understood that there are 5 productions of Anarchus. The Marduk lives at Pine Gap right now. This is in the text. I'm only quoting. Whatever I say is what they've been telling me in the text. Ninurta, the double-headed eagle, is running the so-called economy of America, and he's behind the elite there and giving them promises which they're going to get dumped from. That's the word, dumped. And they won't be happy because the promises were not fulfilled. First of all, I'll go back to why are they important to humans? It's the other way around. Why are humans important to them? That's the question there that should be asked, not the other way around. Now, of the 5 factions, one has gone over. It's Ea, Enki, Lord of the Earth, the Gardener, the loving Creator, has gone and is with the Elohim. The Elohim is an alliance of 20, of one of which is the Arcturians, who are behind the Hopi. And I did have a question mark on why does the Hopi prophecy rock have the Anakim cross far over on the right-hand side of it. That message was given to them from Enki via the Arcturians. This is green Enki, the good one, not the red one. And the message is a loving message, and it shows Earth dropping off from the orbit and becoming parallel and moving out into an agronomist, matriarchal society. That's answering that one that Robert had about why. Which ones remain? Oh, that's sort of answered that too. Who rules? Good question. Enlil rules. Yahweh Enlil. The destroyer is one way to put him. He's a warrior. Marduk follows Yahweh the destroyer, so does Ninurta the sneaky, I would say. Describe him. How they affected us, well, that's pretty obvious. We are held down by the Ashkenazi banksters who are given the means of the running the money system by Yahweh in order to keep us all under control. That's putting that in a nutshell. Now, going to Gillian, I won't go into the genes. They did say to me that what they took from us genetically was longevity. They gave us 120 years. Mind you, always notice when you see the number 12, it's an anarchism, obsessive compulsive disorder, I would say, because everything that's got something to do with 12, you can go straight back and say that's an anarchism. I don't know whether it's because they had 12 fingers or not. Now, Enki can get round that. He can work in the number 5, which is the number, and 10, which is what the Elohim work in. The Elohim work under the auspices of the Andromeda Council, which Alex Collier speaks of. The Elohim's concern is Mother Earth, which is why Putin is for Mother Earth, because he is currently incarnated by Enki. And that might be surprising to you, Robert, but that's how it is at the moment. That is why Putin disarms and doesn't destroy. Now, I think I might have covered a lot of the things we've been bordering on at the moment, in that I must stress the Elohim needs to be understood that their main concern is Mother Earth. The living library, they call it, the living library. And when you want to question yourself, oh, by the way, Dr. Sasha is Ningizida. I don't know if I'm saying that properly. T-H-O-T-H, Toth. That is that is where Hermes.
Your time is up. Pause for now, and then we'll continue with Ross or Joe next time. Okay. Sasha, next question.
Well, I just want to let me see if I understand that you're saying that Ea or Enki has embodied Earth itself, and that what we call Gaia, or people that feel the stirrings of Earth, is saying cleanse my skin and whatever the messages they're getting from Earth. Those are getting messages from Enki. Is that what you're saying? Helen, do I get you correct?
Can I answer that? Yes, he is now a Ra. When Marduk became a Ra, he gave himself that name, but Enki, Ea, earned it.
Gotcha. Thanks. Okay, so let's see who we now have next. It's Janet's turn.
You want me to answer? What's the question?
I want
again?
you to say what archetype you identify with and how that archetype has fared through history right up to the present.
Well, of course, I identify with Nimba, the mother goddess, creator of the universe. No, she's just the creator of the hybrids, the human Anunnaki hybrids, and she's just a loving soul that cares about humanity, was so distraught when humanity went through the flood, and she promised to come back and do something so they would never have to go through that again. So I strongly identify with her. I can't really talk a lot because it kind of hurts to talk, but, I'm writing a book based on her perspective, telling the Anunnaki story. She's been left out of most of history. People don't even know who Nimba is. And she probably is Mary, who came at the Fatima prophecies and is here. She never left. She's not going to leave. She's going to be here until the end of this game to save as many of her children, our children, as she can, and help us become enlightened as she has become since she went through Sodom and Gomorrah and all the horrors of that and the flood, and so she has now become more conscious and enlightened. And I'll pass the rest of my time to you, Dr. Lesson, to answer that same question.
Oh, okay. My answer is very much like Jillian's. I'm not an Anunnaki. I'm just a regular guy. I'm very proud of my heritage from Irving M. Lesson, and he was what's called a real human being, and that's my heart identification. The Anunnaki spirit that I identify with is my immediate teacher. His name is Zechariah Sitchin, and he gave me a feeling for this story of the rolling of humanity and how things work and how they all tie together. And since then, it's my colleagues, Big Pie and Michael Tellinger, that have really been my inspiration, and we are all, and I got to say Michael Hill too, and we're all contributing to each other's information. And I've just been hanging out also with the grandfather Clifford Mahody of the Zuni, and so my Anunnaki threads come through many individuals who are here and now with me, and I'm just a regular person, a scholar.
Okay, I think we may have been joined by Emily. Let me click and see if this is she.
It sure is, honey, and we're not on daylight savings time anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, here we are. We got you. Emily, welcome to this show, and we'll catch you up here. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about who you are, and then
Sure. Well, I'm sorry to come late, and I'd like to just say a couple of words and then listen to where you are in the roundtable tonight, where I might be able to join in and contribute something. I follow Sasha following Zachariah Sitchin because Sasha's site, Enki Speaks, makes Dr. Sitchin's work just a whole lot easier to understand. And my field is conflict analysis, and what I do is trace the Anunnaki ideology from its inception in between Enki and Enlil and bring it down through our history to today. So I do kind of an analysis of processes and methods that they followed and what we follow. And so that's what I do. So, yeah, I'll just listen for a while, and then maybe I'll have something to contribute. Thank you.
Well, what we want to know, Emily, is which of the archetypes or which of the great gods, if any, you identify with and to what degree, and how has that identification affected you in this existence now?
Oh, well, that's a great question, Sasha. Thank you. Actually, being a methods person, I look at the Enki method of secret societies and laws of the sea as being applicable to space travel and mercantile relations on our planet, and I look at Enlil's discipline of common laws and laws in simple time and causes and effect as applicable to laws of the land. And so I didn't particularly like either of them personally. Personally, I come from the Lyran system that predates the Anunnaki, and when I got to the Anunnaki, the granddaughter of Enlil and the daughter of Nanar, Ereshkigal, was my name, and Ayana was my sister, and Itu was my brother. Ayana used to just dominate me mercilessly, and I didn't like their system then, and I still don't like it. Nothing has changed. I'm still the very quiet bookworm in the corner who doesn't really go along with the show, and I'm just watching it. And nothing has changed in all those years. Isn't that silly? Yeah. Nothing has changed, and I am dying to meet anybody who can introduce me to Utu, or I have a thread of Ayana in one of my daughters, and she's a trip. And these bloodlines are threads now. They're not just branches. And so we have fragmented our souls many times just due to stress and strain. And so we find ourselves over and over among the people who are interested in what we are interested in, So I'm delighted to know that Janet is part of the thread or the bloodline of Ninmah. And it's wonderful talking to Janet because she's, very much like a cousin, just very much like a cousin. Yeah, it's just really cool, a family reunion time. And I'm very grateful for that because I was adopted out, a foster kid who was finally adopted in a Zionist mercantile family, and so I never fit in anywhere. And now here I am, age 70, and I'm finally starting to fit in, but not with humans. I'm not with humans. We struggle with our identities, and that's okay because the struggle is a very interesting experience. And I find Enlil very interesting, and I actually have a photograph of a man who calls himself Enlil, and I have a photograph of a man who was called Nanur. And so are they real? Well, I can't chase them down, but it's interesting to me that the Anunnaki are so long-lived that they could live hundreds of thousands of years, and when I run into one of them, believe me, you guys will be the first to hear about it.
Excellent. All right.
So let me throw out the second round of considerations. That was wonderful, and that is these the stereotypes or the sort of the caricatures of these Anunnaki have come to be like models or internal models for us. For example, there's the and you can have your favorite. You can, but you better respect them all. If you're going to have a balanced existence. So let's take Enlil. That's the inner patriarch. You may say, "Gee, that's terrible," but you can't cut it out entirely because the inner patriarch is what makes you live, what allows you to survive. You can say, well, I don't identify entirely with the inner matriarch, Inanna. And then there's also another archetype, which is Nimma, which is the partnership archetype. And so the idea in centering the kind of psychology I teach is that if you can embrace your inner patriarch and see what it really needs, your inner matriarch and see what she really needs, and your inner partnership maker, you can work out an ecology that is congruent with your growth and the growth of the planet. And why don't you guys kick that around?
Wow, that's a great way to look at it. That's healthy. I think that's healthy. Yeah. Now, Enlil was a real individually as.
Wait, Emily, we're going to go round table here.
Go around later.
So keep on track here. I'm not talking as much because obviously I have laryngitis. So we started with Jillian, correct? So we're going to go back to Jillian. Question for Jillian. Just to ask the question. What is the question?
The question is, when you think about balancing your inner archetypes, which ones do you identify with as primary and which ones are shadow? Which ones have you not given as much attention to, and what does that shadow part of you, the archetype that you don't like, the part of you that you don't want to be like, that's like one of the great gods, what does that part really need, and how does that generalize to society?
I think for me, as a personal thing, I'm having a lot of difficulty understanding this question. Getting my mind around it, and I'll tell you why, Sasha. Because it's not that your question is wrong or badly phrased. It's that I have never known myself to be part of an archetype, and so when I look at myself, then I have to say, wait a minute, where do I find this? What does this question mean to me? Because I don't relate to any of them in that way, nor do I know myself in that way. I know myself as Anunnaki, always have, always will. And I know myself as the multiple human incarnations I've had since the rest of them left me here 4,000 years ago, but I don't identify with them as archetypes for me, and so that's almost an impossible. It's an oxymoron for me. The question becomes an oxymoron.
Do you have an inner critic? That's a good place to start. How do you? Is there a voice within you that criticizes yourself? We can start with that.
Yes, absolutely. But then we're talking about our human psychology. And I think, like everyone else, I don't have an attorney. I have a whole law firm in my head that justifies just about everything I want to do. Right? So,
and which the Anunnaki would a law firm work for? If you had a law firm in your mind, which of the Anunnaki gods would they identify with? If they're
okay. If I had to say, which one would I most like to model myself after? It would be Ninmah. It would absolutely be Ninmah. In fact, so much so, and I'm so connected with them, that when I was tiny, like 1 and 2 years old, I used to beg my mother to please don't call me Jillian, call me Mary, right? Because Mary was obviously her name throughout the centuries and in many situations, and of course as the mother of Christ. And so Ninmah has carried that sound, the Ma sound, whether it's in Ninmah or Mary or it's the MA, the mother sound, and that was who I would like to be modeled after. Who do I think I might be more like? Well, probably Marduk. who in my family was the black sheep of the family, and we were quite frankly never allowed to speak of him because he was so much considered literally the black sheep of the family. He was the bad boy in the family, but I absolutely have always loved him, and especially in his role of Ra, when he's bossy and wild and takes charge of everything, tells everybody what to do. So I definitely have been drawn to that wildness of his character, and just the inconsiderateness of his character, that he does what he likes no matter what. So I would say that's my worst thing that I have to critique. I think that's about it.
When you look at the need of that one, it sounds like it's the need to be spontaneous and free that motivates that Marduk aspect. Yes,
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. To not always feel obligated.
Right. And so that in my system of psychology, when you center yourself, you can embrace both your inner Nimrod and your inner Ra and assess the situation from your fair witness and utilize both those energies.
Yes, I think at this point in my life, I'll soon be 80, and I think at this point in my life, most of the time I'm thoughtful enough to be able to do that. I'm neither extreme in any direction at this point.
I get that from you. I'm in awe. You do seem so centered to me. Thank you.
Okay, next person. Let me reset the clock.
Robert was next, yeah.
Okay, go ahead and ask a question for Robert. And
Robert, I want to know
4 minutes.
Both your primary identification and your shadow, the part you don't want to be like, and can you identify with the needs of the shadow part in a way that lets you integrate them in yourself and in society in general?
Well, mostly I identify with Enki himself because of what he's been doing. The shadow part, I would have to say, would be Enlil, because he was actually the one in charge, but he seemed to run contrary to what Enki wanted to do, and Enki was contrary to what Enlil wanted to do. So it puts that large blankness in my head, because I'm kind of between the two of them.
But that's who you are. That's great. That's perfect. That is, you can dig both of them.
Yes.
Okay, and so how
Robert,
does you doing that do parallel what society needs to do for itself?
Well, society, you've got that drive that I think the Anunnaki have. They're trying to push us forward for whatever part that they say we should be heading towards. Enlil is the primary, the leader type person, where Enki, he's mostly pushing towards the technological, and also to try and redo some of the parts that Enlil put upon the human race way back when, just like Julian was mentioning earlier, reducing our lifespan to under 100 years, but Enki on the other hand has been pushing our lifespan further up, pushing it like 130, somewhere around there. So they're doing their best, working together. That's the best I can answer for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll finish with that. Okay. Tasha asked.
Okay, Helen. So, Helen, of the different Anunnaki aspects that operate within you, how do you coordinate them? How do you integrate them? How do you deal with the fact that you feel all those threads within you?
Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me all right? Yes, it's very intricate. The threads between each other are really difficult to follow. That's why I said last time I was on that you have to boil it down to who's doing the damage and who's trying to improve, who's the creator and who's doing the destructive stuff. Now, I'll just get back a second to Emily, the Lyran, the identifying with Lyran is they're part of the Elohim, the law. They're one of the 20 Elohim, and this Enki going over to the Elohim does confuse things quite a lot, because he still uses that numeral system of 12. So when you see a crop circle and it says it's Enki and it's in the movement of 12, that's because he was born an atom. But of the 20 Elohim, the Lyran are the ones that the Enki is counting on the most to help us through in the next under 2020, the next few years, in the teen years they call them. And I identify with the Lyran, as Emily said. Now, the 5 factions, one of the intricacies of the 5 factions is this. They're using those from Alcyone, I think that's how it's pronounced, part of the Pleiades. They've taken them and they are giving them a really hard time genetically and keeping the human front. They are the Pleiadians who are so-called channeling people on this planet. They are misleading us. They are under a lot of pressure from that particular faction of Anakim. They're called the Saam. You know them, Dr. Sasha. Saame, if you like, on the end, but the M stands for Marduk. And they are the human front. When someone sees a human and is told it's a Pleiadian, I'm not sure about Billy Myers, but this is the human front for the Anakim. So that's where it gets intricate. Who can we trust? That's the question when it comes down to running the planet and identifying with and believing who it is that you're being told. Well, I even had to question all of this being because when Nostradamus did the century, he did 12. He didn't do 10. He did 12. And that made me straight away think maybe this is an Anakim plot they've got me involved in. I mean, that's really, I'll call that a joke at the moment. Let's just say that's a joke. I can't get into the matter of personalisation. I'm just the messenger. And there are 84 otherworlders affecting the planet, Robert. 84. And of those 84, when I did the whole, out of all the texts, I named them all, I counted them, and blow me down, I found a manuscript that Nostradamus did called the Monster of Avis. That is Mavis. And Mavis, in there, it said, all 84 must go. I'll stop there if you like.
Okay.
Okay, so Janet, you take a turn, baby. I want you to say how you manage the parts of you that resonate with the Anunnaki.
Sweetheart, let's let Emily go next, and then
okay.
you and I will be last, and then we're going to take a break, 5-minute break. So go ahead.
All right.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, you know, as I keep saying this, I don't resonate with their behavior, any of them. It's clear to me that they were experimenting on an unknown target population. They were doing genetic experiments and basically breeding a new race of people they couldn't understand, and they were struggling with their methods. You know, Enlil had his method, which was give everybody rules, and Enki had his method, which was leave everybody alone and let them figure it out for themselves. And it was pretty chaotic and still pretty chaotic, although now we can see how things work out when certain kinds of rules play out versus certain other kinds of rules. And we can see what happens when people are simply left to their own devices in terms of good versus evil. So we can learn now from all their mistakes, and that's why I forgive them. I forgive Enki and I forgive Enlil because, gosh, if I had to face what they had to face, I would be lost. Okay, but fortunately for them, they had this long lifespan to make sense out of what they were doing. And we're still fighting the same battles today that they fought back then, and we're still learning and teaching, and so that's what I see that's really of value. The Anunnaki culture gave us so much. They gave us agriculture and navigation and social institutions and legal systems. They gave us so much. They enriched humanity so much. And now we just need to slow down and look around and figure out how to put it to work so that it works for everybody. And so, I'm fine with them now. And my daughter, who's a threat off Hyana, is just like she was. Nothing has changed, my wild child. And I'm enjoying finding this family that was lost to me for so long and who now make perfect sense to me of my own children, because my own children follow in some of these same tendencies, not to the extreme perhaps, but it's like going home. It's like going home. It's wonderful. And, they struggled and we're struggling, and that's the best we can do right now. And maybe Yahweh, the sovereign God of the Anunnaki, maybe there's that other level over their heads that can have some positive influence that the Anunnaki themselves haven't been able to have. Well, maybe so. I'm open to that. I'm open to that too. So for me, it's a positive experience, not because of their archetypes or because what they did individually, but because of the generosity that they expressed toward humanity that they absolutely didn't know anything about. It was wonderful.
Yes. So when in your way of looking at it, it makes a lot of sense to me. You take the whole ball of wax, the positives and the negatives that they and you look at that, and then you're a rational person who's looking at it from your perspective and centering yourself, not trapped in their matrix anymore. You can see it and see its contributions, and you have your own things, and so do we. So does all humanity have its contributions to meet as an equal to our extraterrestrials who may have advanced technology, but we have our own genius to contribute too.
Well, yes, and I'm attached to Enlil's rules more than I am to Enki's freedom, because I think every society has to have limits and boundaries. So I speak to Enlil's stuff and method more than I speak to Enki's stuff and method. But, on the whole, it has been a very generous gesture on the part of the Anunnaki to take over this wild planet and this strange group of people and try to make us into something. I think it's wonderful. So that's where
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. Okay. I guess it's my turn, Sash, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm only going to take a couple minutes because like I said, I can hardly talk. So basically, what is the question again? Who do I?
What archetypes besides the primaries that you identify? What is the shadow archetype? What part of the Anunnaki great gods, or the parts of Janet that is really difficult for other parts of you to take? What is the shadow part of Anunnaki in you, and what does that have to contribute to Janet's ecology? And what does the shadow of the Anunnaki have to contribute to the society that we're trying to create, the society as a center that embraces all?
My shadow is, several characters. Enlil, and who I think is the one that's, taking over and ruling the planet and doing all the bad stuff. And, I get pretty simplistic. Who's good, who's bad? Marduk, I don't like his behavior. I don't like how he went crazy. And same with Inanna. So I guess that's my shadow, my disowned self. I don't like the crazy part of me. I don't like when I'm out of control. I don't like when I'm not thinking of other people and just being selfish and, and bossy. And so I work on that on an individual basis. It's about all I can do. And I think these things, the shadow inspires me to, identify with people that are suffering and what is their logic and what's the underlying needs for everybody, including Marduk, including Enlil, including Inanna. What did they need needs that weren't getting met, that they were acting out and going crazy and doing bizarre things and launching a war and destroying property and destroying cities and destroying the planet, and then And they all kind of realized, like Inanna, when she was up in circling the planet, she realized that she had, part of the, that was the flood. Yeah, she got an empathy. But, I think they do that. They just go back and forth and look what I did. And they, too, feel love, and they feel hate, and they feel all the complexities of being alive and in a sentient, humanoid form. So that's all I want to say. Sasha, what's your answer to that question? And then we're going to take a break.
Okay, well, obviously, since my major work in life has been world peace, I have to deal with a part of me that can fight, which the need is merely to survive, not to fight. And I see fighting, or the impulse to compete, as being a potential for synergy. When I was an ethnographer in Fiji, and the district needed a meeting house, two halves of the village had this competition of who could build their half of the roof first, and whoever got their half fixed with all the shingles and boards and everything that they did, the other side had to throw a feast for them. So they got the roof done real quick, and everybody had fun. And that's what humans can do. They can synergize. That's ultimately, they can take the competitive urge, the urge to be noticed and stroked, and they can synergize it in constructive ways, in my humble opinion.
Okay, are you complete?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we're going to take. Are you complete? You have 2 minutes left, but are you complete with your turn? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, everybody, and so we'll be back in 5 minutes, and we're going to play Merle Fankhauser's Messages from the Dome, which is the dome, the sounds that are coming from the dome out at Malibu. So we'll be back in 5 minutes, and we're going to listen to Messages from the Dome by Merle Fankhauser.
Welcome back, everyone, to Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com with your host, Janet Kara Lesson, and Dr. Sasha Lesson, and our very special guests tonight are Robert Evans Jr., Gillian Diamond Green, Janet Kara Lesson, of course, Emily, Elizabeth Windsor Craig, and Helen Parks. And Helen is calling in from Australia, and we're really glad everybody's here tonight. That was Messages from the Dome, and what that means is there's a dome underneath Malibu. They've discovered it based on the Google Earth and these images that are being captured on Google Earth, and so they detected some sounds coming out of it, and those strange sounds we believe are extraterrestrial in nature, and that's an extraterrestrial base. And Merrill Fankhauser put music to it, and it goes. He said he didn't know where it came from. He just sat down. He doesn't even really play the piano very much, but all that music just came out of him, and it synchronizes with the messages from the dome. So if any of you out there know what that means, do tell us. We would like to know what they're saying to us. All right, I'm going to put the mic back on live. We're going to do another probably 2 rounds, and then we'll do a summation. And we'd like everybody to just talk about what they'd like to talk. We'll do the 4-minute timers. Sasha, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi. Okay. We're going to do at least 1 round of free-flow talk, and you can just kind of say what you'd like to say on the subject, and maybe you can address what other people have said, ask questions. And we will begin with Jillian once again.
We're back. Good. Hello, everybody, again. And so we can say anything we like, I understand, on this round. And I wanted, if I may, to say hello to my fellow radio person this evening, Emily. I'm so resonating with her and with everything that she's saying. So often there is the Anunnaki and the speech about them and the written literature about them really does set them up as gods, even if it's gods with a small g. So I'm glad to hear somebody else being a tiny bit critical of them. From my perspective, I know them as a sort of scrapping, fighting, fornicating bunch of rebels who've gone through a great deal of disagreement among themselves, like one giant family, and have finally come around after the mess they made on planet Earth to realize that they have to clean up their mess before they themselves can move on. So I want to first say, I would not argue anything I say if anyone disagrees with me who has studied the matter intellectually. You're quite at liberty to correct me, because as I explained to Dr. Lesson and Ninmar when I first met them, my only real-time knowledge is my own memory of them, not any study of them. So I could be very wrong, because memory is very deceptive at times. But my understanding is that at this time, because we need to, I think in terms of their lifetime, not ours. They left the planet 3.5, almost 4,000 years ago now, and it's time they were coming back. But for us, it's 3,500 years. For them, it's only a couple of years gone by. It's nothing to them in time. So the things they were arguing about when they left the planet, and they only resolved a couple of thousand years ago with their effort by sending the Christed being down to the planet to have one last shot at teaching us the right way. And it was not just to help Earth that they did that, or to help the humans that they had so muddled up and confused and got in a mess and then left them to get on with it. It was also to balance their own karma. Their own karmic history is that they made a mess on this planet, and they themselves cannot move forward without they clean up their mess behind them. And so much of the, not just Christ, but the great teachers that they have sent to the planet at various times has been because they're trying to resolve and rebalance their own karmic history so that they can move on. And about half of them at this present time, led, I might say, by Ningishida, who is truly a Time Lord and has reached the level where he can move in and out of time at will. He wishes, with about half of the Anunnaki at this time, to get back to their own origins of light beings, of a much more evolved race, the way they started out. And there are others among them, led primarily by Marduk, who say, no, we kind of like it in this very solid three-dimensional world, and we like ruling and running things here, and we like planet Earth, so we want to get back down there. So to my understanding, there was an agreement made in council about 3 or 4 years ago, fairly recently, which said, okay, the time for us to start seriously coming back and not taking over things, but working with things, because they learned the lesson of not imposing on the human race. They're not going to do that again, but working through humans who are already on the planet, is the year 2017. And what they've been waiting for all this time is for humans themselves to develop the ability to understand the human genome. And once the humans could understand that, then the Anunnaki can work with them. I have to stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julianne.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. Bob is the next free flow round.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the one thing I've been kind of interested in, I've been researching in on the Hopi and some of the other Native Americans that had a lot of ancient prophecies and stuff, like the 4 Hopi worlds, the prophecies of the Hopi. Julian mentioned that there was a race that was actually helping the Hopi, and I'm hoping maybe she can respond really fast. Which race was that?
Oh, you're asking me? No,
yes, ma'am.
Yes. No, Ningishida was the one who was Thoth. And in the time he was Thoth, when he fell out with Marduk, who was Ra at the time, and was banished to South America, you then have him going up the whole coast, all the way up into what is now the Yukon and back down again, teaching and teaching the native people of that time, the people who were there at that time. And so all over you find these same teachings were given, and they were given by Ningishida. He was the one who traveled. Yes.
Okay, because they're...
by the way, Ningishida means, actually, the name means Lord Gish of Sheba. And that was the land of Sheba, which is where they did their first development of the genetic engineering. And when he took charge of the laboratories there from his father Enki, then they gave him the title Lord Gish of Sheba, and that's why they call him Ningishida.
Okay, because reading through the Hopi stuff, they say at the end of the 4th world that a true white man will come back, and he'll have the other tablet, because they say the white man took the tablet with him. He'll be coming back with it. But they also say that he will have a circle cross as part of his something I guess he's wearing, which matches almost exactly what I'm taking. There's an Anunnaki wall carving that goes back a long time. It shows him wearing a circle cross on his chest, and it's called we call it the mark of Cain, but in their thing it's something to identify him to them, and it's just amazing how all this stuff is starting to line up, at least in my opinion.
I agree.
Okay. That's the end of my question there. I'm sorry.
Okay, you finished with your time, Robert?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get the clock reset. Okay, now on to who's next? Helen, I just want to ask, slow down a little bit when you're talking because it's not the best connection, and then you have your accent, so it's a little bit hard for us to understand. So just slow down when you're talking, okay? It's your turn, Helen.
Okay. All right. I have a question. This is really pertinent to what is about to develop. Do the Anakim know about the tall white grail underneath Area 51? I don't know if any of you are aware that the off-worlders really have the planet into boundaries of their own. Let's see, no one ever talks about this. The Anakim think they have the whole planet. They don't. Now, the grails underneath Area 51 are aware of the Anakim. I want to know if the Anakim are aware of them, because these guys, they're the Phil Schneider grails, the ones that almost killed Phil Schneider. They are removing our electromagnetic fields from the planet, and this is really something the Anakim need to know about, and I've never seen in any of my research, mainly in the hidden text as well, or from the Cassiopeians, no one seems to say the Anakim or Enki or anyone know about these. These are the ones that Nostradamus called Mabus, M-A-B-U-S. And if you want to know who I identify with, I can only identify with Nostradamus and what he's been told to say. So is there any one of you, and I just love what you've, all the input that you have is helping me tremendously with what I don't know. But this, Dr. Sasha might know, are the Anakim aware of the other entities on this planet?
Yes. Yes, they are aware. Particularly Thoth in the thrice-born Hermes goes into detail about other forms of life, and in the more modern context, Anunnaki have been in councils and like the linkage with many of the other species. They are here interacting with the Venusians and the Serpo people, and they're all aware of each other, and they know about the underground connections and the deep reptilians under Antarctica. The whole picture is starting to come in, and the Anunnaki are aware of it, but for some reason or other, the stuff they told the Sumerians, it dovetails quite well with the stuff that they told the South American Indians, the descendants of Canaan, that they brought across. But there's lots and lots. You look at the wall at Pumapuka, you see they have a wall of all the ET visitors that were coming around, and there's grays there, there's coneheads, there's the whole variety. The planet has been visited, and the Anunnaki are fully aware of that, and we don't really know just who Akhenaten was and how he fits into the picture. They never mention his skull deformity in any of the stuff that Kramer or Sitchin has translated.
It's open now. Go ahead, Helen. Helen, can you you have about 30 seconds left. Go ahead, try to finish what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go on. We just lost you for a moment there, but we'll come back. Okay, next person, Emily.
Oh, this is marvelous. This is so helpful, Helen, because, you see, Ningishita was my son, and I was the granddaughter of Enlil, the daughter of Nanar. But Ningishita is the issue between Ereshkigal and Enki, and I didn't like Enki, and he didn't like me much. So I was sort of there on the cusp. And Ningishita was, or is, an extremely intelligent, broad-minded guy. And the fact that he has influenced the Native Americans in the North American continent, I can testify to that, because even in this incarnation, my great-grandmother was Cherokee, and I'm completely in alignment with their way of seeing reality in addition to being in alignment with Enlil's legal system, okay? It's amazing to me how you can be in alignment with this and that and something else together, and they seem to be in conflict, but they're all okay somehow in your head. And that's how the amalgamation of experience is bringing the Anunnaki to their knees, literally. Now, you know, among the Anunnaki, there are the breathers and the non-breathers. Okay, there are those that have lived in a dimension without atmosphere, and those that live with atmosphere. And being a former Xerox digital imaging technician and technical trainer, I have scrutinized the pictures at Malibu Beach with great professional interest. And I have taken the Google Earth photos and gone through them and down into them, and yes, shown not only the immediate facility, but also I have been able to see humans, hominids just like us, walking around on the ocean floor. And that's because they're non-breathers. They don't need to breathe air. And they're also a lot larger than we are. They're probably mostly about 8 feet tall people. And and so it's no surprise to me that the Malibu space colony is there. There's another one in the Gulf of Aden. There's another one in Hudson Bay. Okay, there's another one at Lake Titicaca down in South America, where the Anunnaki, who are non-breathers, can just walk around underwater and have a colony, and they don't get in anybody's way. And this has been going on probably for a long, long time that we, of course, don't know about until Google Earth happens to arrive on the scene, and we have the technology with Google Earth and with photographic software to descend deeply into the oceans on Google Earth and actually see what's going on down in the bottom of the oceans. It's really marvelous. Okay, so yes, I've seen the Malibu Beach space colony, and they just walk around down there. It's no big deal. They've got, facilities down there and offices down there, and that's how their primary, now that Nibiru has amalgamated around the atmosphere of our, Nibiru is a torus, which means it's the shape, I'll get into that later.
We'll come back to that. Okay, next.
We'll come back to that.
Is, let me stop this. Okay. Is me. Okay.
Okay, yes, you.
I just wanted to say that I am an experiencer, and I have been on Johnson Atoll, and it was a typical abduction experience, but I didn't feel abducted. I realized I was going back to some experience that related to my other half of myself, which is my Anunnaki self. And so I was taken to an underwater installation where I saw 1,000 Anunnaki in a ritual, much like Eyes Wide Shut, but it was a very positive one, wasn't negative. It was just a beautiful ceremony, very, very stressed in medieval clothes, very gowns and stuff like that. And there were 3 different species of grays that were interacting with the Anunnaki. They were interacting with humans, and we all went down and saw the dragon. I want to say the center of the earth, but it wasn't the center of the earth. It was just down underneath the ocean. And I think there was a mother-father dragon in the sky. There was the masculine, and the feminine was in the earth. But I don't think they're limited to the earth. I got the impression that they could just kind of be wherever they wanted to be. They could go through matter, time, and space. And that this dragon chose to appear before this council and this ritual and answer all the questions they had of her. And she's an ancient being. I think on the level of the Lyrans are more ancient. Not sure which is the first species that was created in the universe, but very ancient being. And that's why I have dragons on my dresser. I didn't know why I carried these dragons around all over the planet. They're very heavy and they cost a lot to ship, but I kept taking them wherever I went. And then finally, when I had this experience, I went, oh, so I'm somehow associated with the Anunnaki and the dragon, which is an ancient being, part of the universe. And I can't talk very well, so I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Dr. Lesson.
Yes, I'd like to. I've thought some more about which of these Anunnaki archetypes I identify with, and I realize what I identify most with is what they call the creator of all. The creator of all, because it's like I can feel the divine in every consciousness. That's really something like it comes down to in this very lifetime. One of my teachers was a fellow named Carl Rogers, and what he did is he developed a system where people got to know each other as human beings and share their emotions, and they develop affection for each other, and they can work out everything substantive. And so Leonard Dube had taken these principles, encounter group principles, and used them to mediate tree border disputes in Africa. At the time, he was called back and not allowed to continue the experiments because the U.S. State Department was selling arms to both sides and competing with the Russians and stuff. But we were left with this method, this absolute method that when people got to know each other as human beings, they could work it out. And so when Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat and Jimmy Carter were in Camp David, and they were about to go home with a failed peace accord, and they started crying, what are we going to tell our grandfathers? And Anwar said, well, they'll probably kill me for it, but I'm going to go for peace between Egypt and Israel. And they shook on that. And to this day, there's peace between Egypt and Israel. And that's the line of the creator of all. And that's what I identify with, and that's what I embrace.
Okay. Thank you, Sasha. We're going to start another round. Back to you, Jillian. We'll go free flow, and you just tell us what you want to talk about, and you can answer other people's questions, or you can just begin your own thread. Next to you.
I can ask other people questions. Good. I'd like to ask Emily if she would just tell us again about her family, as she remembers them, her Anunnaki family, at the time that she was, I think she said, married to or was the daughter of Ningishita. I'd like her to say that again, if she would be so kind.
Oh, I can do that. Okay. I was the daughter of Nanor, who was the son of Enlil, so I'm the granddaughter of Enlil. And Enki presumed upon me and fertilized a child in me that became Ningishita. And I became very, very extremely fond of Ningishita because he is so incredibly intelligent and resourceful and scientific. Although I've never had any much use for Enki himself because his ideas about human freedom were so extreme, they repudiated the very sense of my father and grandfather that social society needs to have limits and boundaries in order to gently guide its members without forcing, without requiring or controlling or dominating, but just simply guiding its members toward harmless behavior. And I thought Enki was much too extreme. But Ningishita went off on another line of thought completely. He became a real techie and made scientific discoveries that were just startling even then and startling now. And so now as his mom, after all these centuries, what I have found relief and comfort in is technology, like my son Ningishita. And so it's technology that I think we're going to recreate consensus methodologies that include the truths of all the people, and we're going to have ways to make governance work without force and control and domination. And so I've become an advocate for Ningishita's methods over all this time. That's
wonderful.
Even though I think his father was an asshole. But things happen.
I would have to absolutely agree. My own connection with Ningishita, as I know him, and I usually refer to him as David for the very reasons that he did take on the role of, as I'm sure you know, the biblical King David. But I know him as Ningishita as my grandfather. When I'm what I consider at home, he is my grandfather. And when I was
to make it more interesting yet, is that I am now in the bloodline of King David. I am still in the bloodline of King David and of the current ruling monarchy in Britain, because the kingdom of David was brought to Britain in the Stone of Scone in 583 B.C. by the prophet Zechariah and King Zephaniah's two daughters. And so all of that is still alive and well.
Yes.
It's all still working.
That absolutely is it. And what I've found interesting in my own family in this time, and I was talking some of this with Ninmar. Oh, sorry, time up.
Okay, we're going to talk for another round. So go ahead and finish your thought, and then we'll go to the next person.
Is Robert still there?
Yes. Go ahead. Bob, we'll go to you, and then we'll come back. So you guys left off when you're going over your bloodline. Okay, Bob, back to you now. Are you there, Robert?
Yes. No. Let the other two women go ahead with what they were talking about. I'll pass this time.
Okay. You two continue.
Well, if you're sure. What we were saying was about the bloodlines, and what I have found most interesting, because as I said earlier, everything that I know about these things, I only know from my own memories and from a lifetime of talking to them off planet, they just regular contact. But I didn't know any of the intellectual research things that have gone on, as clearly all of you do, and so that's really helpful and filling in a lot of blank spots for me. But what I have found most interesting is that at this time in history, so many of the known realities, like bloodlines, are actually making themselves known and manifest. In other words, there's so much going on where we know this is not a hoax, this is not our imagination, we're not making this up. Here is the proof positive. For instance, Emily, you just said about the bloodline coming down through the British royal house. Now, I happen to know through my grandmother on my father's side, in this lifetime, my grandmother was, through marriage, a relative of the House of Beauclerc and Hamilton in Scotland, and that made the Beauclercs and Hamiltons are first cousins of the Queen. So the bloodlines are real. They're not just something that's written about in history books or that people imagine are connections. These are real-life connections on the planet today, and I think we're going to see more and more people coming together and meeting one another and actually knowing each other so we can close the gap. As far as I'm just speaking in reference to the Anunnaki and the humans, not the other races on the planet, about which I know something but very little. But we're closing that gap because the last 3,500 years, as I said before, is only a couple of years to the Anunnaki. We've been, all of us who remember, have just, from our relatives who are at home, it's a very short space of time. When I was left here, I was the equivalent of about, an American teenager of 17. Well, I've lived nearly 3,500 years in multiple incarnations since they left me here. But I'm still, when I talk to them back home, I'm only 20, right? I'm still a young person to them. And I know I had a visitation from my parents, my Anunnaki parents, about 25 years ago, they turned up just peering at me through the middle of the room, and my mother said to me at that time, "We're on a ship, we're headed towards you, and we'll be there soon." Well, my experience with them is 20 or 30 years is fairly soon, right? So they just popped in, as it were, when I was sitting in my house one day. They just kind of stuck their heads through the veil, appeared before me, and said, "We're on our way." They actually said, "We're out beyond Saturn now, but we're on our way in," and that's about 25 years ago. So this time thing, because they have interacted with me on a daily basis throughout my entire life, it's normal. They are my family, and the things that have happened to me in the Earth incarnations are the odd things, like the vacations, away from my family. It's kind of maybe sounds a bit insane, but it's the way I think and have always thought. So back to you, Robert, I guess.
Well, he yielded, so we're just going to go on to Helen this time. Helen, are you there? And take it away. We can't hear you. Helen, will you hang up and call back in, because you're just sounding like a monster. Yep, call back in, and we'll get around with Emily, and then we'll go back to you. Okay. After that, Emily, your turn. Tell us who you are.
That's really an interesting question, because the way I was born this particular time, I was adopted out into a foster kid situation, and then finally adopted, and I was adopted into another race and another culture. And so it has taken a half a century for me to even begin to answer the question, who are you? I have a string of names that would choke a horse, I was born Elizabeth Inman, and then I was given the name Maureen Emily, and it was Goldstein, and it was Lewis, and it was Trotto, and then it was Heron, and then it was Heater. Okay, so when you ask me who I am, the only reason I can even begin to answer is that I had to go inside and stop asking people on the outside and stop asking this family that I had on the outside, who are all dead now anyway. And I had to talk to the sovereign God Yahweh about it, who is the same God as the Anunnaki God, because the whole religious domain that we have set up is a derivative and a reflection of the Anunnaki's experience with temples and cathedrals and dogmas and saints and sacrifices and all that stuff, okay? And so we have a huge amount of tradition attached to our Anunnaki past that we somehow keep dragging along with us. And the nice thing about being part of this generation, which is just so chaotic, is that you have to make some choices. You have to say, I'm going to do this, not that, and I'm going to choose this, not that, and I'm going to go here, not there. And so I've been able, with the help of the Spirit of God, I'll put it that way, to distill down who I was into who I am. So I am still Sarah Talpat from Lyra. I am still Ereshka Gill. I am still other people along the way who had some terrible memories, being burned at the stake and head chopped off and run down by horses and attacked by dogs and all of that. I kept the violent memories. But I'm able to distill into a personality now that's okay. That's okay. And I'm finding folks like you are doing the same process. You're finding out who in cosmic space and time you actually were, are, and have been and will be. And that means that our planet is not completely bereft of wisdom. Our planet is not bereft of leadership. That we who've been here a long time in a lot of places, and old souls, I guess we're called, have the chance and the responsibility to help settle things down, help settle, resolve, solve problems. Because we've been there, we've done that, we got the T-shirt. Does that help?
True. Yeah, that's so true.
I hope.
All right, back to Helen. Okay. Helen, back to this. Go ahead, take your turn. Helen, can you hear us? Oh, wait. Sorry, Helen. Okay, sorry. I had to unmute. Go ahead, Helen. Take your turn. Try again.
Yes. Okay. I know Enki's been a naughty boy and has his way whenever he feels like somebody, but he's a really, really good father. Now, when you think about the fact that he gave the Ten Commandments to Moses as a guideline, and then, of course, he's acting on his paradigm of free will, unlike his brother who wants everyone to do what Enlil wants everyone to do. That's the difference between the two. And Enlil can't really progress without allowing that people need to grow in their own way and not the way he wants them to grow. He has his own opinions about humans and their abilities and their lack of abilities, and all Enki can see is the good. He can only see how we can get better and better, and he's going to do the best he can to ensure that we do get better and better. And we've got to stop the war. The warfare is created in order to make money, and that's a Yahweh thing. That's an Enlil thing. That's the money thing, how you're going to keep everybody hopping along. And it's ancient. Money system is an ancient method of controlling not only humans but other planets. And I had to stick up for Enki in the fact that he loves not just us, he loves the entire planet, the living library, the creatures that are involved in the living library. And there are a lot of other entities with him who are also maligned. Now, I'll draw you to one wall priest. There's 4 of them, but one in particular that shows, and I don't know who it is, Dr. Sasha might know who it is, holding up what is called the bird man by one back leg. The archaeologists call him the bird man, but he's a mantis. I think that's a propaganda wall priest. I think that's the Anunnaki saying, see, we're the boss. This is how history is always told by the winner, the victor. Now, the mantids are the ones who are eventually going to save this planet, despite the factions of Anunnaki that have their own ideas. And Enki is with the mantids. They're called the Golden Ore League. They're the golden host, strange as it might seem. And it was also Enki who arranged Jesus Christ, not Yahweh and not any of the other factions. It was Enki and the Cassiopeians and the Elohim who arranged Jesus as a free will method of humans and humanity following in the good path, the right path, the righteous way. We are the righteous. We are the meek. Meek means righteous. And I really love Enki for his attempt at being a good father. He is father in heaven, as far as Nostradamus is concerned anyway. It sounds strange, but that's how it is at the moment. So I'm not saying I dislike Yahweh. I feel that he's got a lot of service to self. He's not really thinking about the opportunities that humanity can grasp. And let me know when I run out of time. But that's what I've got to say. I'm not an expert on the Anunnaki. I'm only going on what the hidden texts from Nostradamus, who experienced them personally, and so did Da Vinci experience them personally. And they were given a great deal of information by the loving one, who is Enki. And the main problem that we've got is that the boundaries of our planet, divided by the different off-world entities, need to be understood. That's not what I have to say. They need to be understood.
Okay, that was perfect. My turn. I love Enki.
Yep.
I think Sasha is an emanation of Enki. That's why he has the website Enki Speaks, and that's why he's so obsessive about writing about the Anunnaki. And I identify as Nima, and I think that we found each other again after many, many, many years apart as humans, but we are a thread. I agree. Somebody said earlier we're a thread. We've lost our totality, and we've come down into human incarnations, and we send our threads down into different physical forms in order to reconnect with ourselves and remember our oneness, remember who we are. And I have memories of who I am all the way up to the highest level of existence, down here to this little person that I call Janet Carolesson. My bloodline goes back to the royals as well. I am the rhesus negative blood. I have memories of being Henry VIII's fifth wife, Catherine Howard. It came to me after a year of meditation. I would meditating every night. That's one way to get your memories back, is just meditate at a given time every single night. Don't be attached to any format. And then the memories just started flowing back in me. I also remember that came right back after I was killed because I lost my head. And I was Elizabeth's daughter, Elizabeth's first daughter, illegitimate daughter. Yes, she had a daughter, and lovers with Robert Dudley. So anyway, I've had different people contact me, very mysterious at first, and we begin a dialogue, and they validate these genetic connections. You do. Only I know magical things happen. And Jillian, I'm really excited that you came in with your memories, and it's a lot of church. Hold on, put that on mute for a moment. That was references in Nostradamus' book. Okay, references in Nostradamus' book that it brings in current people like David Icke and people, Jesse Ventura and Andrew Pishago, and she even found me and a couple of our researchers. So don't be surprised if Helen finds you in the Thomas text, and she gives you a report about who you are in the grand design of this eternal scheme that we're doing to piece together the puzzles, to reconnect, to remember who we are. And with that, I will pass the ball to Sasha.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting about our archetypal geek, Ningishita, because when Thoth, as Kukulkan left the Maya in 311 BCE, said, I'm going to come back 21st of December 2012, and I'll bring 9 gods and 12 gods, and by that he meant Anunnaki, with me to clean up the mess. But what the geek has come up with is a system of power grids, just like we have every few city blocks, of basically pyramids that are all over the world, over stagnant water. You pump on the water, it starts the vibrations from the earth going up, and then you fire hydrochloric acid and hydrated zinc into a hydrogen explosion above that, have it go with piezo energy up crystals, and out the top of the pyramid pick it up with monoliths. And they had this all over the planet, and they had a tunnel system connected everything, and it's like this. There's this entire universe of what this planet is about that has been hidden systematically from the people by the truth embargo. But once you start reading this stuff, you realize Ningishita has given us the energy that we don't have to pollute our planet. We have transporter technology. We have time travel technology. Our covert government's been using this stuff extensively since the 40s. We have been from the Nazis who were underneath Antarctica by the ETs from Serpo, who gave us our own disc traps so that we don't have to be overrun by the people that are still running the planet from Antarctica, the Nazis who are still running the United States. But perhaps I'm going way beyond the scope of this program. But Operation Paperclip has left some of the scoring of the Anunnaki in charge, and it's Uklon, who's coming back with lots of help, and the Hopi grandfathers tell us the same thing. Help is here. That's what I got to say.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to do one final round. I think it'll be 3 minutes. We probably are going to go over just a few minutes. So to our listeners that have joined in, top of the hour, we're just going to go off. But the remainder of the show will be on the archive. So if you want to hear what's said after we disappear off of the charts here, just go back to the archives. So this will be our final 3-minute round, and I'd like everybody to, say what you want to say, and do tell us part of your time how we can contact you, your research, your websites, your Facebook, whatever you want to talk about. Back to you, Jillian.
Yes, well, to clear the first thing, my name is Jillian DeArmond Green, and the DeArmond, I use the DeArmond still. That's my late husband's name, and that's the name that I was writing under. So if anyone is interested in anything I've ever written, they'll find it on Amazon or my husband's website. I am currently married to George Green, who I believe is coming on the show tomorrow. And some of you may know or have heard of my husband. And I was interested when Helen mentioned the Birdman, and I didn't hear what she said about it, because for many years, like long before I came to America and met George, they always referred to him as a future thing as the Birdman. My Anunnaki friends call him. So I couldn't make out whether Helen was saying something good or bad about the Birdman, but that's who I'm married to anyway. So that's what they always call him. This business of who am I? That's a question that I started asking some time ago, and a clairvoyant friend of mine said it really doesn't matter. Well, it's taken me a long time, several years, to sort it out, and I suddenly came to the realization a few months ago, I am who I decide to be. And my connection with Anunnaki, I joined the Anunnaki millennia ago in time and space, long before Earth even existed. I joined the Anunnaki as a race and became one of them, and have been born into them as a person, and know myself as an Anunnaki. And if I think now, where will I go when this cycle comes to an end and I have choice, I will go back to them because I love them, and I love the life I have with them, and I love all the exploration of the universe, and also because they are making a matriarchal society, the other side of Andromeda, which is being developed by Ningajida as we speak. He's in charge of it, but they are coming back to this planet for, they've told me, 300 to 400 years, because they've already started introducing new genes through the humans who are working with genomes. They're introducing new genes into the human system, which will hopefully abolish warfare on this planet by introducing more of the feminine side into the human society and getting rid of warfare. And they think it will take 7 generations or 2 to 3, maybe even 400 years. And until that time, they will be here, and some of them intend to stay. So, yes, I have to say, when we say, who am I, I've come to the conclusion that the I is who the I decides to be.
Lovely. And Jillian, how can people reach you, or do you have a website or anything you want to say on that line?
No, I don't.
That's okay.
I don't have it. I really don't want to put myself out there in any way. I'm happy to do this and share any information I've got in this way, but I don't work anymore. So
excellent. All right, that's great. And hang around to the very end. I just we'll do a final round. Bob, you're next.
Okay. I've been looking into Julian. She's got some beautiful books. The Chalice of the Dove, Violet's Flame, and Meditations. You also worked on something called The Return of the Anunnaki. I found that on the internet. Can you tell me anything about that really fast, Julian?
It's just a free little download. It's a little booklet of 20-odd pages that I wrote when I was doing a lecture, and it was about the Anunnaki, their return, where they came from, what they've been doing here, and what their long-term intention is. And they end up by saying, and it was kind of a dictation, you might say, from them. It was a real message from them to us at this time, and they asked me to write at the end, the Anunnaki return to teach love of oneself, love of each other, and above all, love of God. That's what their goal was.
No problem. Thank you. Well, I can be found on Facebook, Robert H. Evans, Jr. I can also be found under my website, which is starshipsaroundthesun.com. NASA's been recording the Anunnaki and other ships coming into our system since 1998, and they're keeping it very quiet. They've been recording them with their satellites up there, SOHO, stereo ahead, stereo behind. The U.S. Navy's been doing it with their SETI satellites, and they're being seen every day. They've also got some kind of a magnetic shield around the Earth. It's been reported on several times this last week. They also have massive solar probes that orbit our sun, which is also cutting down some of the effects of Nibiru, also being called the third, the red Kachina by the Hopis. It's being seen right next to our sun almost every day now. So something out there is happening, and hopefully their intervening will make things a little bit easier for us to survive this next time. That's the best I can say right now.
Okay. And next is Helen.
Right. Well, Robert, those craft around the sun, I've done a PDF forum about them called The Craft and the Sun, because there was one of the main vignettes, Nostradamus' son painted exactly that, describing them perfectly. They are not all good. We do have a Star Wars going. Got a Star Wars going, and it's a three-way Star Wars, not just two-way. And we can go into that at some other time. Now, what I wanted to say, the matriarchal society is coming sooner than you think. Who was saying that? Gillian, was it? That by the year 2137, the matriarchal society will be well into its where it belongs, and the patriarchal society, which basically is set up by Yahweh, I'm going to blame him. That's got to go by the by, because there's no balance in humanity while there's warfare and bloodshed. Something's got to be sorted out. It's all wonderful to have listened to what you've had to say. The repulsive six is what Nostradamus calls those that are hovering around the sun, the unholy six. And I can tell you where you can find them perfectly described. They were in the Bible, and a lady called Frances Rolleston in the 19th century found the words where God speaks twice in the Bible, in other words, the hidden cryptic words that he really means to say for those who wish to find them. And she described these six, exactly who they are, and where they are from, and what their agenda is. And included in those six are the Cassiopeians, which is part of the Elohim. Included in those six are those from Argus, which are the Mantids, which are the Golden League, arriving nearly too late. And the other four are the Orion group, the Sirius, Orion, Perseus, and so on. And those are who are floating around the sun and have been for a long time. You know the big angel that was seen at the sun the last 2 years? The Anakim did that. That was there. It's huge. It's huger than the planet Earth. They did that, and rightfully so, it did impress a lot of people. They did it to impress us. They work a lot in images like that, and I've yet to find out the motive for that, whether it was from the benign or the other three factions. I haven't gone into where they're from, who they are. They mostly do come from Ursa Major, but they come from Eridanus. They do come from Aquarius. And I can tell you all that at some other day if you wanted to know. But anyway, it's been a great experience. I've learned a lot from everybody here. Everybody has their own way of approaching things. I have a really straightforward way, and sometimes I think maybe I'm too blunt about it. But I'm pleased to have met you all. The website is the Hidden Text of Nostradamus. Just call up the Hidden Text of Nostradamus, and it's all in different topics.
Okay, thank you. Emily.
Yeah, okay. I'm Emily Elizabeth Windsor-Craig, and I'm on Amazon.com with a couple dozen books, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm busy figuring out my relationship to the past and the present and the future, and utilizing digital imagery. I'm showing people how to navigate through this puzzle palace, and it is a puzzle palace. And so I have books available. I'll be doing conferences, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come and share with others who, like myself, are thrusting ourselves out to explain and talk and share with the larger public population that there is really more to this life than just what we buy at the grocery store and what we see on the television. There is so much more going on than our mainstream media are telling us about. There is so much more that is interesting and fascinating, and we can find out things we never even imagined if we want to, and if we make the choice. And who we are, correct, is a choice who we decide to become. Okay, so you can always find me, and I'll be always be around kicking. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my turn. So what I've just started is a GoFundMe. I saw your GoFundMe, Emily, that you wanted to get some backing to go to conferences and present. And I did a GoFundMe to create conferences, because I used to do conferences in another genre, and my strongest desire is, and a bunch of us are talking about, creating these conferences around the ancient aliens, the Anunnaki, exopolitics, disclosure, experiencers, et cetera, and I'd love to create one, and I will have all of you as presenters, Bob, Helen, Emily, and Jillian, and George, your husband, and of course myself and Sasha, and two other of our dear friends, and that's my strongest desire to create right now. We are going to be doing this show, We-The-Anunnaki, every Friday, so any of you who would like to join us again next week as panelists, please do contact me. And people out there in the listening audience, if you have any questions, including panelists, if you have questions that you would like us to ask during these discussions, please get that to me. And you can write to me at aquarianradio@gmail.com. That's AQUARIAN radio RADIO @gmail.com. And I want to thank everybody for coming. And I'm going to give the mic to Sasha for the final words, and then we'll do the outro song and another wonderful show. Aloha, everybody. Sasha, take it away.
Yeah, so the patterns that are potentials that we all have are the models that the Anunnaki, as they were represented, are there for us. And what's really important is to not separate ourselves from half of them, but to realize that they are all active in all of us, and also to gain the perspective on them that Emily is suggesting, that you can see the whole ball of wax of their model and use what's useful of it and let the rest go, but embrace it. But it's important not to ignore any part of them. And so if you can deal with your own shadow, you can look at the things on this planet that you hate, and you say, what can we do about it? And the best story I know is of the Munich murderers who killed all the Israeli athletes in Munich, and they were studied after they got jobs and families and started enjoying life as citizens with sort of the minimum that human beings need. They stopped being terrorists, and that's the answer. We've got to meet people's needs here.
Wow.
Oh. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And I invite you all to join in one final aloha, if you will. So 1, 2, 3. Let's say aloha. 1, 2, 3.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Good night. Good night. Next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Much love and blessings.
Good night.